Okay, welcome to another video on debugging Alexa skills, creating Alexa skills. This one's going to be on doing local debugging of Python code in the EU, although it doesn't really matter. And we're going to use VS Code for that. So I've got a great little quote here that says, local testing enables you to verify changes to skill code without deploying skill code to Amazon Web Services. Test your skill without leaving VS Code by using the VS Code Alexa simulator page. Well, let's see whether we get around to that. You can also test your local skill by other methods. We'll certainly use the ASK CLI. This all comes from this website, the GitHub website there, and you can see the setup. The trouble with the setup really is that it doesn't really tell you what to do in much detail. It's taken me ages to get this actually working, get everything dead right. It's one of those cases where just one thing goes wrong and nothing works. So I'll make all this available on my own GitHub channels as well, and also obviously the link to the video. I've installed VS Code for Alexa skill kits for VS Code. I've got VS Code here. And so the first thing you need to do is create your skill. I've done all this. We've just done. I've done that in a terminal here. Just used ask new, answered the questions. So I've said interaction model Python. I'm using AWS Lambda rather than a Alexa hosted skill in this video. I'll do another one with an Alexa hosted. Chose the Hello World template. I've given it a name, local debug, and it's all been created successfully. I've also then opened up the folder within VS Code and just need to make some changes before we do all that. If you look at your skill interaction model, you'll see this normally says Hello World. So I've changed that to local debug. Yeah, that's been saved. And in the Hello World Python code, I just put a note saying open local debug so I know which one it is. And then somewhere down here, I'm just going to include the reprompt for the hello intent. So I'll just do an ask deploy, and we'll do an ask dialog within this terminal in VS Code. I'll just pause the video whilst it does that. Okay, so that's created that. We can now do an ask dialog to test it out, just check everything's working. Open local debug. Okay, we can say hello and so on. We can either do that within the ASK here, or we can also do it from another terminal. If you want to do it from another terminal, we'll see this in a bit. Sorry, didn't like that. Open local debug. And hello. And because I've got the reprompt in, it won't time out, which it often does. Can do it again. Okay, so that's all working quite well there. So just one thing, let's just see what else I say here. Now, so I've checked it worked, I've changed the names. Sometimes you might see that you get some orange or yellow underlined code here. You can't find the ASD SDK, the Ask SDK core, in which case you just need to do a pip install Ask SDK core to install it. Okay, so now we're just going to run the rest of this in an environment, local environment, virtual environment, sorry. And what happened then? Why not activated it? Hang on, let's just sort this problem. I missed a line of code. I needed to set up virtual environment, and then it says we noticed a new environment's been created, so we'll just create the new environment for this, and then you can activate your environment. Okay, so we've now got a virtual environment set up. Oh, and now we're getting all these orange things, these yellow squiggles, so we can do the pip. Let's go back, paste. And I'll pause again while that's doing that. And you can see now that we've solved all the problems that we had down here. Right, okay, so let's see what we do now. We start the virtual environment. We now need to install our Alexa Skills Kit local debugger config code. And we need to do that. We change the Lambda folder and install it there. So cd Lambda and install the ASD SDK local debug. Right, and that's installed that. So now let's set up the debugger configuration. So this will create a launch JSON.json file for us. So the thing to do is to select your Hello World code and run add configuration, and that will add a configuration. It's created our launch.json, and this is for the current file. I've got a feeling you don't actually need this, but what you do need to do is remove those comments out of the file. Now we need to actually run and add another configuration. And if you're running a node code, you'll choose the node. We're going to choose a Python debugger. And here now we want to choose the area that you're registered in. So this is the problem. This is the file I had all the problems with. And if you have any problems, it's going to be with this file. And there are various comments on websites and forums about how to set all this up. But this is what we're going to do. This is the way that I found works for me. So we've created the first debugger, and we've added our Python Alexa Skills debugger. Okay, check the region. Now we're going to modify this. As I said, I don't think we actually need the Python current file, but I'll leave it there. But we do remove the comments. Okay, so now we need to change some of these things. Now, first thing I found was that, as you can see, we've got some yellow underlined here, so it doesn't like that. But it also couldn't find my interpreter path. So I had to find out where Python actually lived on my machine. And you can do that by going into your C drive and then saying where Python, and the Windows will look and tell you where your Python code is living. So now we need that's the first thing we need to change. The next thing we also need to change is this program here. It can't find the command ask debugger except adapt path. Now this command ask actually does provide you with the skill ID, and it will provide you with an access token, so you don't have to go and get your own access token. When you do an ask run, as we'll do later, it will provide you with those, but it doesn't find this debug adapter path. So what we need is we need to find where that lives, and that should, because we've installed the ASK SDK local debug, it should be in that folder. So we've got our workspace folder, Lambda, local debug, debugger invoke. So I'll just change that file as well. Save that while I think on. Now there are two other things we still need to change. If I've done here, used the AWS Lambda, these two things need to change as well. This is the folder that we're going to run. It's not going to find this lambda function.py because we've got a hello world.py, so that needs to be changed to hello world.py. And the other thing is it doesn't have a lambda handler either, because if you come here and you scroll right down the very end, you'll see the thing you've got here is handler and not lambda handler. So that also needs changing. So depending on whether you've got an AWS or a Alexa hosted, you need to set these as well. So I'll change that. Oh, my Alexa's woken up. Sorry, and we'll save that. Okay, let's just check how well we're doing. Okay, I've timed out. So now what I've got is my launch.json should look something like this. And I've highlighted the areas that we need to change. Okay, now we should be able to debug our file. So let's see. We can go here and we'll need to do a few things. So I'll show you, I'll see whether we can do it from the Alexa. Yeah, I'll do that in a bit. First of all, we'll got our program here. We need to run an ASK run down in the terminal, and that will set up a debugging session that will last for an hour. And as we've seen, it will provide us with a access token as well, right? Yes, so that's worked all right. I was obviously in the wrong folder before. Okay, and now what we can do here is we can run and debug our skill. Now, when you go to the debugger here, you've got the two configurations that we set up. So what we want is we want this debugger skill here. So make sure you choose that one before starting debugging. And what you find now is hopefully we get a little dotted line here, and then down here we get a couple of things that are running, the call stack, and they're running. Now, if at this stage this doesn't happen, you've got something wrong with your launch.json. So as we can see here, we've now got, once the session is successfully started, which it is, we can use Ask Dialog to simulate our local scope. Well, we could start a new terminal here. We should be able to do it from the skills toolkit, or we can do it from over here. Of course, we can set another terminal. I'll just run this in another terminal. And we'll just see what happens. Oh, let's just set a breakpoint before we do any of this. Let's set a couple of breakpoints. We'll set one on the hello intent and one on the launch request. So they're now set. So if I now launch this, we hopefully should hit our local code. And yep, sure enough, it's paused at our local code. So we can carry on. You should be familiar with this debugger. If not, there's a link I've got for you there. And sure enough, we get back here. And if we say hello, we should also hit the other debugger point we've got. And our speak output here. Now, this is what I find is the problem. If you now select this and try changing the value, so at least we can stop and we can inspect our values. If I change that to just hello Python, come back over here, if I hold this over the speak output, it says hello Python. So we can look at our variables. We should be able to change our variables. We can set watch values on our variables as well. But if I run now, what I find is that it doesn't actually make the change. And I think sometimes you might get that if we time out. Let me just see what happens. Let's just try that again and be a bit faster next time. Let's try hello first of all and see what happens. I'm not sure whether the thing's timed out or whether it needs to relaunch. Okay, yeah, needed a relaunch. Let's fail again. Okay, so start a new ask dialog. This is still running over here, should be all right. Let's hit the breakpoint. Let's just run it again. That's right, it's come back this time. We'll just do this again. Hello, it should hit the breakpoint over here. Let's just change the value, delete something, and hit return and run. It comes back here, but it hasn't made the change. So I don't know what, I think that's a problem. I think that's a bug with the system. But at least we know now how we can set up our launch.json, the ones we can see. We can see that we are actually debugging our code here because it's hitting the breakpoints. So that's about it, really. We can set breakpoints. I can ask run to set up a session, ask dialog. Oh, I'll just show you that you should also be able to do it. Just come out of there a minute. Oh, the other thing we do want to do is if you do make a change, let's make a change. You do need to obviously save the change. You need to save the change, and you need to restart the debugging session. If you try running this now, let's just try it from the Alexa Skills toolkit. Open the simulator. So we can do the same things here that we can from the development console. Could do if my simulator would open up. Right, don't know why that's not running. Okay, well, let's stop the debugger. Try again. That's curious. I've never seen that before. Okay, well, I'll just go through the rest of this. I'll have a look at that problem. Go through the rest of this. So if you found that useful, there are. Oh yeah, there's a. I think that's the issue about the change. You can't change the variable. If you like that, then you can try and see my book. It's got loads of stuff on it, Alexa skills, and also Raspberry Pi stuff. And if you want some other references, if you're a Node watcher, then this by Craig Walls is brilliant. This YouTube video by Craig Walls is brilliant. There's another one here that's been recently published by Andrzej Jaskiski. It's just it's not a video. And there are some other references down here. If you do get any problems, and there's some troubleshooting here, generally, like I say, it's problems with the launch.json. So I hope you found that interesting. What I'll do is I'll do another one with Alexa hosted skill, and we'll see how well we get on with that one. Oh, let me know if you enjoy it, and send me any comments you've got.